much. What I've decided to do is I share one story with you, and I have 3 takeaways from this story. So it's nice, sweet, and short. The story is about Saxonia Systems. Saxonia Systems is a software company which is based in Dresden, in Germany. In 2008-2009, when the financial crisis hit, they were struggling substantially. They lost about 40% of their revenues as one of the biggest customers went bankrupt, and many of the other customers, which were in the semiconductor area, were struggling to diversing more towards larger providers. To deal with this immediate crisis, the leadership team speeded away the extended group of more senior people in the organization to take some stake of what they should be doing. The company up to that point in time prided itself in not having any strategy at all. They had these little silos where every one of these little parts were allowed to pursue pretty much their own interests, obviously making profits in that context. But that didn't work anymore now. In this way, they managed to sort of sort out a first quick solution where they were pursuing some of the existing clients to stay with them and were winning just a few more clients. But they got appetite for actually a more structured way forward, one that involves more than maybe just the 2 founders thinking about strategy in future. And they decided to have 3 meetings a year, 2 days, each of these meetings, and in between have implementation periods. That's where they thought they can stop at this point in time. But this is a software house where a lot of the engineers are used to much more iterative processes where they have a say in things, and they were starting to push back. They were saying, why don't we get a voice? Well, we have some opinions here as well that matter. And, to the credit of those who were running the organization, they were indeed invited to take part in these 3 big meetings. And the company also noticed it probably needs a bit more than 3 meetings a year and introduced something that they call bi-weekly strategy stand-ups. In these bi-weekly meetings, typically about 20% of the organization takes part. That's a lot. That's substantial. When you consider that usually in a strategy development process, you have just as easily sweet talking about those big ideas. And the company managed to switch to a much more project-based type of work that was better coordinated between the different departments. Revenues increased 3-fold for the company, so they were not just out of the woods, but they improved their performance incredibly well. They most recently, about a year ago, were bought by Carl Zeiss, one of their biggest clients, who decided to make them their digital innovation group. Now, what are the 3 takeaways from this little story? First of all, what you can see is when you open up your strategy, you get ideas that are more closely related to the reality of people who work in that organization. It is better strategy because it's more useful, it's more related to the operational reality of an organization. We did a survey, and we have learned from executives that we asked that 70% of them thought by opening up the strategic development of ideas, they get greater commitment from their staff. So that's the first takeaway. Better strategies, more useful strategies. The second takeaway is we're talking here about this fluidity and direction issue in this particular panel. And one of the beauties about this open strategy process is that existing structures do not have to die. They're often there for a reason, but some of the weaknesses, this inability to talk across those structures, is at least mitigated because people meet regularly in these bi-weekly strategy meetings. And finally, the third takeaway is that people who are involved in the big decisions of an organization, they generally more happy in their job. The chance is, in a period when many organizations wonder how we can keep people, where particularly in the United States, the Great Resignation is a topic that worries many leaders, this is one of the ways we can actually deal with that. Giving people the ability to have a voice, have an involvement, makes them more likely to say, this is an organization I want to stay in. We have found that there's still a relatively small number of organizations that open up their strategy processes. About a third of all strategic initiatives are done with some aspect of openness. But these 1/3 of initiatives make about 50% of the revenues and profits of organizations. So if you're not yet opening up your strategy, it's your own fault. I'll leave it at this.
Yeah,
You said we should be brief.
Thank you, great. A small room for